Hello, beautiful soul. Namaste. Have you decided to have a regression hypnosis session, or maybe you're thinking of booking a regression hypnosis session, which is also usually called past life regression? If you have, I can tell you from personal experience in my life, from the amazing things that I've seen happen as a direct result of sessions, it is one of the best choices that you can make for your own growth, beautiful expansion, just a life that all around gets so much more beautiful. So in this video, I want to share with you some tips to best prepare for your session, why people usually come for sessions, how to really gain optimally from your session. And the first couple of these pointers have been shared with me through writing by the amazing Candace Craw-Goldman. For those of you that might not know her, she is the founder of BQH, which is short for Beyond Quantum Healing. And it is this amazing, incredible, fantastic regression hypnosis modality which encompasses all other practices that you may already do. So it's a standalone practice, or if like me, for example, who was already a Reiki master, a crystal healer, a psychic development coach, a tarot reader, all of those other things that I've already done, angel healing, teaching classes, workshops, and all those things, then you can actually learn this technique and you can encompass it with what you already do, which is what makes it really, really great. And Candace Craw-Goldman is just a fantastic person. She is absolutely amazing. I'm going to put a link for her down below in the description if you'd like to check her out. She also teaches Beyond Quantum Healing, BQH. And Candace Craw-Goldman has worked for many, many years side by side with the absolutely fantastic, incredible Dolores Cannon, who is the founder of QHHT, Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. So Candace really knows what she's speaking about, and I was so grateful when she actually really shared these tips with me. And that is just the nature of person that she is. She is absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Now, there's a couple of different things that may have brought you here, and I'm just going to discuss that very, very briefly. And at the end of this video, I'm also going to share with you three additional tips, which can also be very, very supportive when it comes to preparing for your session and gain optimally from it. Because I will be honest with you, when I first found out about these sessions, I was like, nah, I don't know. That sounds like a little bit of a stretch to me. But I have seen the amazing transformations that happen in people's life. I have seen the amazing transformations that happened in my life as a direct result of regression hypnosis. And so whether you are having a session with someone else or whether you're having a session with me, I don't really mind. You know, if you are a practitioner yourself, you are more than welcome to share this video. But please, when you do so, let's always do from the highest good. Let's do so with moral intentions. As long as you do that, by all means, grow with it, roll with it, flow with it. Okay. The first thing I'd like to speak about, so we're jumping right into it. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Adrian Nelson. I am a regression hypnosis practitioner, what some people sometimes call a past life regression hypnosis practitioner. I want to speak a little bit about that a little bit later. Okay, so the first thing is your intention. Why are you having your session? Now, your intention can be that you are really struggling with something specific. Maybe you're trying to overcome something specific. It could also just be that maybe you are curious. I've had many people that came to me for sessions. They'll be like, no, I'm just really curious. I just like to see what all the fuss is about. And those people have also really gained amazingly from the sessions that they had. Four of the main reasons why people typically come for sessions, and of course this is just very like across the board, so this doesn't have to be the only reasons why you come, but one of them are health. And the wonderful thing about regression hypnosis, because it accesses your subconscious mind, which is 90% of your entire mind. For some people it's up to 99% of the entire mind. And whatever happens in your subconscious mind, whatever is true for you on a subconscious level, and those are the things that you're not consciously aware of. Those are the things that determines directly your experience of life. It determines the people that are brought into your life. It determines the people that leave your life, the experiences that you have, the happiness you have, the sadness that you have. A lot of times you will see that, maybe somebody in this life, they try really, really hard. And no matter how hard they try, they just can't reach any success, or it's not really satisfactory, or it's of very short span. And maybe you're one of those people. And then you get these other people that it seems like they don't care at all. They're not even trying. And then somehow they are just able to easy peasy just get everything done in life. All of that is determined by what is true for you in your subconscious level. And, even if you're already doing really, really well, you want to know what is it that is causing you to do well so you can do better, all right? So it's the same thing when it goes to health, because regression hypnosis doesn't look at the cause. And by that I mean is, if you, for example, have illness, have a disease, have something ongoing, so say, for example, your family's got a history of diabetes, of cancer, for example, you want to know why you are having that. What is the deeper pattern within yourself? And a lot of times in esoteric work, wellness work, anything like that, we speak about your patterns, and sometimes people take it very, very personal. But the thing to remember is that 95% and up to 99.9% of the patterns that you have that determine your experience of life are patterns that you are born with. It's like Lady Gaga says, I was born this way. But just because you were born that way doesn't mean that you have to continue being that way. So the mind is something that, if you think of the mind, you can think of it working almost in binary code, ones and zeros. It's very logical, very chop, chop, chop to the point. But all that chop, 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 it leads to emotions. And whatever emotion is true for you on a subconscious level is going to expand outwards, portray outwards, and directly determine your experience of life. So when we speak about health, instead of trying to heal the disease, instead of trying to fight the disease with medicine and all kinds of almost like attacking sort of ceremonies, when we go back and we say, why are you having this experience? What happened in this lifetime? What happened in a previous lifetime? What lesson did you maybe come here to learn? Why is this present? And when you understand the why, then you immediately also understand the options that you have around it. Then you can say, well, I may have come into this life with this as a yes for me, but now I choose to turn that around as a no. I choose to release that. And once you release whatever it is that, caused the illness or the emotional experience or the life experience or the continual breakups or the trouble with money or whatever it may be, once you say no to that, you say goodbye to that, you release it peacefully. And you always have the option. In my sessions I do that, not everybody does that, but I will give you the option to replace it with something positive. But even if you don't, just because you change what is called the core initiator of the problem itself goes away. Because the problem, whatever the health problem is, or any problem it really is, it is a cause of a different, or it's effect rather of a different cause. So change the cause and change the effect, okay? Something really great with that as well is that when you are, for example, a parent who carried something over to your child, remember that our children are really clones of us, glorified clones of us, and when you change that patterning that you gave forward in energy, when you heal that in your life, it's also not going forward anymore, which means you don't only help yourself, but you help everybody else involved as well. And that is the beauty of these sessions. Relationships is another reason why people often come to sessions. Now, this could be any form of relationship, but in my experience, it's normally romantic relationships, and it's relationships among loved ones, family members, a child with a parent with a child, a husband and a wife, or even close friends. It could be that maybe you keep on attracting relationships where people don't recognize or appreciate your value and your worth, where you maybe think that these are good people to hang out with, to be friends with, to open your heart to, and then they keep on stabbing you in the back. Why is that? Because as I always like to compare, I always say that human beings, we walk around with these big sort of notice boards above our heads. And the notice board says, for example, this is me, these are my patterns, this is my word, this is my value, this is what I believe about myself, this is what I don't believe about myself. And no matter what we really want consciously, if what we consciously want is not in alignment with what is subconsciously true for us and whatever that notice board is saying, we keep on being disappointed in life, and you keep on running yourself in walls, and then you feel, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not worthy enough, and we start buying into all the other things that the world teaches us. You have to work harder, you have to almost sell your soul. But imagine if that wasn't the truth for you, how different your life can be, because you can only have an experience based on what is true for you. Okay. Your life path is another one why people often come for sessions. Now, life path, when people come to me, be it for a regression hypnosis session, crystal healing, tarot reading, life guidance, Reiki, psychic development, whatever really. It is always about, when they speak about life path, the question would be, am I on the right path? Now, technically speaking, you cannot not be on the right path, because your life has dual possibility. In other words, you go this way and you unlock that, and you go that way, you unlock that. But those are all possibilities that have always been possible for you in your life. So when people typically come and they ask about their life path, am I on the right path? It will either be that maybe they just had like a spiritual awakening, or maybe they come from a background where they really doubt themselves, where they have been told they're not strong enough and good enough, so they don't come from that level of support. Or it could just be that you feel completely out of sorts with your life. You feel completely out of sorts with your life, and you're looking for a better way of living. Another one is spiritual origins and goals. And this typically goes along with a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening is really just you becoming aware of the fact that there's more to you than what you may have initially thought. Okay? And once a person has these really big, profound spiritual awakenings, you typically realize that you had a couple of other ones before as well. But it can be a very overwhelming time, especially if you come from a very set traditional background. I remember one of my biggest challenges back in the day, and for quite an extended period of time, has been about hell not really existing. What if I go in the spiritual direction, but whatever happens and I die along the way, and then I end up in hell because I went against what I was taught as a child. And to some that might sound like a silly notion, but to those of you that may be experiencing that at the moment, and as a person who experienced it quite extensively myself, it is a very, very real concern. And also goals, reaching your goal. I think we reach a certain space in life, we realize this is what I want, or you realize that you're not going to be on this planet forever. And there are certain goals that you'd like to reach. And based on the foundational packaging that you are born with in your subconscious, and I always like to compare it to buying an electronic device like a laptop or an iPad or a tablet or a mobile phone or whatever. You come with pre-installed software. And the patterns that we are born with is the pre-installed software. When you factory reset that product, it is going to bring those sort of like presets back for you again. And then as you go through life, you gain experience on top of that, and that is sort of like the downloads that you can do, this app and that app, and that sort of stuff, screensaver, taking pictures, taking videos, and so forth. So with regression hypnosis, you go to that deeper level, and the question is, this pre-installed software that I came into this life with, is it really serving my greatest purpose? And the question might be yes, or the question might be no. But typically if somebody comes to me, it usually is that the question is no, or they'd like to build on that and improve on that. I want you to know that there really is no right or wrong reason to book a session with a practitioner. It doesn't have to be me. I always encourage you to book a session with somebody that you feel very comfortable with. and somebody that you can really relate to and have a level of trust with, It's normal to be a little bit nervous, to even have a sense of apprehension, to think this is all a whole lot of nonsense. It's fine to have those sort of things. But you want to have a session with someone that even if you feel a little bit nervous and jumpy and uncertain and whatever, that you do have a level of trust in them. You do feel that they know what they are doing. Okay, because if you don't, then typically your session is not really that successful in any case. Okay. So moving on to the next point, it's our connection to your higher self of being. Now, your higher self is typically referred to as your oversoul. There's many different words for it. Maybe you call it your higher spirit, Holy Spirit, ascended beings, masters, guides, guardians, angels. But remember, as a human being, you are a physical expression of universal possibility. You are the part of consciousness. You are the part of the whole mandala, of the whole tapestry, of the whole puzzle that said, okay, I'm going to go into planet Earth and I'm going to go and have that physical experience of life. And first of all, for that, I want to say big ups to you, because it's quite a big thing to come to this planet. So big ups to you. And a lot of times it's just really so amazing, and I find this a lot when people are spiritually awakening, maybe not even realizing that they're spiritually awakening, or just seeking for that higher purpose in life. Maybe you feel very depleted, very tired, you don't see the point of going on through life, you're feeling suicidal, very depressed, all those sort of things. And you maybe just want to, just get this sort of, I would say, almost tangible experience that you weren't just dumped here on this planet and left to your own devices. And in that sense, these sessions can be absolutely amazingly brilliant. And even just to realize who you are. Not everybody in every session goes to what we call life between lives, for example, which is, I suppose you can call it heaven or the afterlife. It's really where you are consciousness that doesn't have a body. It can be a beautiful experience, a very healing experience. Some people see their Akashic records, so they get like their purpose for why they came here in this life. But with all that being said, I want to let you know, and I'm going to speak about this just in a little bit later when we speak about expectations, but a lot of times your session will not be successful because you have these expectations of how it definitely should be. Now, on my own channel, I've got a couple of sessions where I had some online regression hypnosis guided sessions with people to give you an idea of how I work in a session. Maybe you go online and maybe you've seen the amazing, incredible Alba Weinman with some of her sessions, for example. And all of those are really, really great. But what I just want to remind you is that what you see online is typically an edited version of the, of an actual session. A personal session goes a lot deeper. Neither myself, Alba Weinman, or anybody else with integrity really, is going to share things online that is, that are morally unacceptable. We're not going to do that. So I just want to let you know that whilst you might look at sessions online and be really inspired by them, I want you to take it as a guidance, but I don't want you to set your mind in a direction specifically, this is the kind of session that I want. And an example that comes to mind, a gentleman came to me one day for a session, and as he walked through the door, he told me that I can't be hypnotized. And I was like, okay. And I'm going to speak about that a little bit with one of those 3 pointers at the end. But I was like, okay. And, he told me that he has seen this one practitioner who is actually somebody that I know and is a friend of mine. And I know that she's highly capable in what she does. But, it's not really, I'm not really here to defend other people during a session. I am here for my client, and there's no judgment, anything like that. But anyway, so this gentleman explained to me, said to me, I can't be hypnotized. I tried with this person. She was really, really terrible. And I said, well, maybe that session was a preparation for you for this session. Because every time you go into trance, you go deeper. And that is also one of the reasons why I send my clients a pre-recorded guided session, a very simple one, like a 10-minute one, 10-15 minutes one, that I want you to just listen to. You can listen to it for a week, or you can listen for it up to 2 months before we have our session. But the more you grow that connection with your mind, with your subconscious mind, you may find that a lot of questions that you may have initially had, that a lot of those questions are actually being answered. So by the time you come to your session, you have really grown quite, profoundly, and now you've got deeper questions, and you're really, really ready to make that incredible deep connection. But it is, please, important to remember that no two sessions are alike. I've had many regression hypnosis sessions in my life. I have done repeat sessions for some other people sometimes, where, maybe you come to me for a first session and you're kind of confused, and you're having difficulty making life work, and you've got all those challenges. And then maybe 6 to 8 months or a year down the line, now you've worked through all of those things, and now you're ready to do something new. You're ready for love, or you're ready to start your own business, or to move, or whatever the case may be, really. And then, we come and we work on different stuff for you. But the experience is never the same for two people. But I will put a link to those sessions down below. I will also put a link to the YouTube channel of Alba Wyman. You can check out some of her sessions. She is brilliant. If you've got a lot of questions, there is the link for Dolores Cannon. There's the link for Candace Craw-Goldman. I'm going to put them there for you down below, so you can check them out. Okay. Water. Water is one of the best things that you can do for yourself during a session, even before the session, to prepare for it. Remember, our body consists largely of water. So drink a lot of water before your session, not so much that you really feel that your bladder is going to burst, but don't try to hold out on water, being scared that, what if during the session I feel uncomfortable, because these sessions are typically quite long. I do a pre-consultation with my session, as most other practitioners will do. So I do a pre-consultation, which is something very similar to this, ask if you've got some questions, some queries, some concerns. Then we do the induction, which you can do really, really fast. I mean, you can get somebody in a deep level of trance in under 5 minutes. But in my sessions, my inductions take anything from 45 to 60 minutes, whether it's an online session, whether it's an in-person session, because during that, I really help you to make a deeper connection with yourself, with your body, to release patterns that are no longer serving you positively, balancing your chakras, cleanse your aura, place you in a beautiful space of safety, work with your visualization. So by the time the session starts, you can really go in the deep end in the most positive way. Okay. Also, you can have water during your session, because what some people sometimes don't know is that if during your session you need to get up and go to the bathroom, you can actually do that. If you maybe need to shift your body position, you can do that. So you are not bound and set to this position from beginning to end, because as I have mentioned in many of my other videos before, and I will put a link to the playlist for my regression hypnosis sessions below, is that hypnosis isn't sleep. You are typically very, very conscious during your session. You're very aware of what's happening around you. You may just choose to not really pay too much attention to it. Your physical senses, they really, really psych up. A lot of people have a tendency to become really, really psychic, really, really connected. And even an example that I like to use with people is that if you, for example, imagine that we are, let's say, we're living in a complex, in an apartment complex, and we are on the ground level. If there's maybe a gas leak on the 7th floor, you will either know about this gas leak, or you will wake up and become fully conscious, and something will say to you, you have to leave right now. So none of those, scary mind control things that you see in the movies are really, really true. With that being said, just something that I'd like to touch on very quickly, but very importantly, is that if you are on any kind of prescription medication, or you take over-the-counter medication, you want to check with a trained medical practitioner to make sure that that it's okay for you to have a regression hypnosis session. And this will be any sort of prescription drugs, whether it's for a medical condition, or whether it's maybe psych medicine or anything like that. I would really like you to just check in with the trained medical practitioner to make sure that it's fine. And if you do any other sort of hard drugs, marijuana or anything like that, that is not something that you're going to take before your session, because it's just going to make you tap out, and you won't get the benefit of the session in any case. So if that is something that you are doing, I do also offer sort of like more life guidance sessions. We maybe want to work through that more, and I'll give you some exercises to do and that sort of stuff. Okay. So what you also want to do is you want to prepare a list of direct questions for your session. I know earlier when I said don't have expectations, but what I'm referring to with this list of questions, and this list is very, very important, and I want you to really take some time to really, really think about it, possibly even before you book your session. A lot of times it is by making the list that a lot of people make the decision to actually have the session. But you really, questions in the list would normally be things like, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my future? What is my potential? What is holding me back? What is blocking my life? Why do I have problems with health, with body weight? Whether you're underweight or overweight. As a person who at school used to be extremely scrawny and extremely thin, and my best friend had a problem of being the fat girl. We always spoke about how interesting it is that when you are the incredibly thin, underweight person, how you actually have very similar challenges to the overweight person. People pick on you either way, and it's very, very hurtful. And a lot of times we carry pain with us that we weren't actually aware of having in the first place. And then when you get something very threatening happening in life, or something very traumatic, maybe there's a break-in in your home, so your safety is compromised, or you are physically attacked, you're in a car accident or another sort of accident, you become very, very ill, you have a near-death experience, you maybe have a situation where there's maybe some personal sort of like sodomization. I don't know if sodomization is a word, but you are personally sodomized, you are highly suppressed, life begins to feel very overwhelming, as we had with the pandemic, where your mind had to be really focused on your survival. You didn't know if you would survive, you wouldn't know if your loved ones would survive. Maybe you took the vaccine and now you're very concerned, will this have an effect on you? Will you die? Were you being lied to? A lot of those things are pressure, but even pressures and even pressures from childhood. A lot of times we think because something happened long ago, it's no longer affecting me. But until the mind has received a communication that you no longer need to be concerned about this, you need to let it go. You may not be consciously aware of it, but it forms part of your core foundational patterning, and by default, your experience of life. And imagine if you can let that go, not creating a life experience where something that doesn't serve you positively is involved. Amazing stuff, Sometimes people would like to know about the people in their life, their children, their loved ones, their friends, their animals, their plants. And a lot of times you realize how all these people are part of your soul family, or maybe you are very at arms with someone, coming back to relationships. Maybe that person came into this life to give you a specific experience, to almost drive you in a certain definitive direction so that you can get something else. Sometimes souls do that as well. So when we speak of our soul family, it's not always this, soft, gentle experience. Some soul members came in to really, really push us in a certain direction, to help us to grow in a certain direction, because that was the purpose, of our life to come here. You might be dealing with karma, maybe ancestral patterns that, again, you brought things from your previous life. And it's all about rebalancing your cosmic wheel, that flow of who you are, inner child healing. Maybe you got stuck in the dark night of the soul, shadow work, because sometimes we do. There's many reasons, like really. So whatever is really personal to you. And I would say you can put up to 20 points on this list, but what I really find is that when you really spend some time with it, and you kind of bring that down to maybe say, you don't have to, but you maybe bring it, or you can obviously always check with your practitioner, but I always say, if you can bring it down to say maybe 5 to maybe 8 very specific issues, and maybe say 5 to 10 maybe people or animals or like anything like that in your life, you usually get more as opposed to try to cram everything into a session, because a lot of times different experiences in our lives are just different manifestations of the same core initiator. Okay, I'm not saying you should skimp on yourself. I'm just saying that if you really think about it, if you maybe think about what is the 3 or even the 1 aspect that was that final nail in the coffin that made you decide you're going to book the session. If you even focus just on that, you might find that you gain more from your session as opposed to try and cram everything all in one and jump all over the show. Expectations, leave them at the door. You want to leave expectations at the door, and it comes back to those online sessions that I was referring to, that you want to have it like this, it must be like that, it has to be like that. Some people want to have this gone like a light sort of experience, and I have to be honest with you, very few people have that experience. Not because they can't, but maybe just because their mind is very busy. They've got difficulty with trusting, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't trust me or they don't trust their practitioner. It might just be trust in general. If, for example, as a child, when the lights went off, if somebody sneaked into your bedroom, and did all sort of unsavory things with you, or maybe from a very young child, one of your siblings were maybe favored over you, or maybe you were adopted and you didn't feel good enough. Maybe you were in school and you were told you're not clever enough, or worked in a company where you never felt any good, or whatever really, felt pushed into a certain career choice by your family because they had money or whatever. It's naturally very difficult for you just to trust people. And if you don't, you don't. It is what it is. And it's rather better to work with what is as opposed to try to make something be a specific way. So I remember I've had this conversation with some people before as well. They said, this is what I want. And I said, we can aim for that, but I'm going to strongly encourage you to not commit to that, because you may need something different. I've had someone that once said to me, they want to have that experience where they specifically wanted to meet Jesus, and they wanted to sort of like, meet the creator and creation and see the tapestry of life and everything. And I said, okay, we can make that a goal, but let's not set ourselves to, this is the make or break. And that person had what is called timeline regression, which means he didn't go into a different lifetime. He stayed in this lifetime, and that person got stuck at 3 years of age in his grandmother's garden behind this sort of shrub where people couldn't see him, and he would sit there for hours. And his consciousness couldn't move further than that. In actual fact, he couldn't remember anything consciously from 3 years down or younger. It's almost like there was a block in his consciousness that happened there. Once we cleared out that block, and that was actually one of the longest sessions that I ever had. I think that session went like 5.5 hours, minus the induction. I was like, oh my goodness, this is taking so long. But I give my day to you. I give my time to you, because my goal is for you to discover, unlock, and learn how to positively maintain and benefit from the magic that is within you, because the answers, as Candace Craw-Goldman loved to remind us, is within us all. Okay? So expectations, leave them at the door. You can have your intentions, because intentions are good. They're the driving force, they're the motivation, they're the inspiration. But expectations can sometimes be the things that withhold the beauty that's available from you. Are you a coffee and a tea drinker? If you are used to having a cup of Java in the morning, then by all means have your cup of Java. Do try not to have too many sort of overly caffeinated sort of drinks. So a cup of coffee is fine, a cup of tea is fine. Maybe a light beverage, like some cola or something that has some caffeine in that is okay. But really don't go heavy on the caffeinated drinks, because it keeps your consciousness very awake. It keeps your heart beating fast. It keeps your blood flowing. It keeps you very much alert. So that could also have a detrimental effect on your session. If you are a smoker, like a physical cigarette smoker, you can have a smoke before your session. It's normal for people to be a little bit nervous before their session, so you can have a smoke, no problem. Whilst I don't really encourage it, there have been people who have actually had a smoke in the middle of their session. And that could be done as well. As opposed to kind of going cold turkey on smoking. I remember I used to be a smoker. I used to be a really heavy chain smoker. And if I couldn't smoke, I would get very nervous about it. So you don't want to do that to yourself, because then you jump in and all you think about is the cigarette. Eat a light snack or a meal prior to your session. You are allowed to have a light meal prior to your session. In actual fact, it's preferable. Again, try to stay away from something that is maybe somehow containing anything that will really peep you up. So anything that somehow has caffeine in it, try to steer away from that. Anything with maybe too much sugar as well, because remember, sugar can really energize you, and also it really sets your what do you call that, the system that breaks down your food, your immune system. It really sets it to work. Which, if your system is so heavy, then then maybe your body can't just sort of like settle down, because it has to break down this food. But any normal simple meal, preferably something healthy, but it doesn't have to be over the top healthy. It's just something light, because you don't want to get hungry during your session as well. And I also recommend that you maybe keep yourself a nice little light snack for after your session as well. With my sessions, I do strongly prefer for my clients to stay with me for at least 20 minutes, but preferably 30 minutes after the session, be it online, be it in person. Because even though you're coming out of this beautiful, beautiful trance session, your mind is still highly susceptible to suggestion about 20 to 30 minutes after your session. And if you just finish your session, you run outside and you maybe witness something very unsavory, two people fighting, somebody cutting somebody else off in traffic, and the other one, they're like, beep, 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 how dare you type of thing. That in itself can then immediately build a very negative pattern for you as well, which is why I recommend that you do stay with me. You can speak to your practitioner. If they are not open to that, then you might want to ask, is there maybe a waiting area where you can sort of relax afterwards? Or if you may be in your own car, something like that, maybe get somebody to come pick you up. You are typically able to drive yourself, but driving can be stressful. Ask somebody to pick you up if you can. Maybe take public transport if that is okay for you, versus your own transport, or just wait in your own car for like maybe 30 minutes, put on some nice music, eat something nice that is nice for you. Practice stilling the mind. This is so important. The more times you go into trance, the deeper you go. So every single time you go into hypnosis, you go deeper. And that is also why I uploaded those 2 sessions that you can have a look at. That is why I linked my playlist for regression hypnosis. There are some guided sessions over there as well. Somebody who is amazing. I have to give him honor. This is like my superstar when it comes to regression hypnosis. This is my idol. His name is Michael Seeley. And on his YouTube channel, he does a lot of guided sessions. They're beautiful. They are ad-free. And I remember his is one of the sessions I learned to first. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I want to know how to do this for myself, for others. So he's got beautiful guided sessions on his channel, which you can listen to. I'll put a link down below. I just want you to remember that no matter how beautiful you find those sessions, I want you to remember, so any guided session that you really listen to online, is that you can only go so deep in a general guided session. There's only a certain level of depth that you can go to, because you might be dealing with people in a whole various lot of different circumstances and situations you don't know. But just to let you know that your own session, it does typically go much deeper. It's very personal, it's very focused. So if you really, really, really enjoy the benefits that you get from an online session, then I promise you or those general guided sessions, I promise you, if you have your own session, it goes so much deeper. And this is also why for my clients, I do send them their 10-15 minute guided session to just listen to once a day, in the morning and the evening, whenever really suits you. In the morning is really, really great, but the evening can also really, really work. Whenever it's really, suited to you. It's more important that you do it. You really begin to go into that beautiful relaxation state. You become used to my voice, and you become used to, entering that subconscious mind. A lot of things start to really work themselves out for you. So it's really, really amazing, and that is why I do it. And if you are working with a different practitioner, you can maybe ask them if they have something like that for you as well. I mean, if they don't, it's not the end of the world, but if they do, it is a very beautiful thing to listen to. And then the things that I want to add on to this. So all of these beautiful things that I sort of elaborated on, those are from beautiful Candace Craw-Goldman. I'm so grateful for the wonderful work that she does on her channel. She's got such incredible conversations herself with other people about the beautiful possibilities of regression hypnosis. So, do check it out. I do find that for myself, when I first, was going to book a session for me, when my best friend was preparing for her session, when other people are prepared for their sessions, the more you know, the more comfortable you feel, because knowledge is literally power. Okay. So online versus an in-person session. Now, a lot of people may tell you that online sessions are less effective than in-person sessions. Not true. Okay. Yes, in-person sessions are amazing. For the first period that I started, I would say maybe for the first year and a half, maybe 2 years, I did in-person sessions only. But it's just really because I was sort of freaked out by, by online stuff and electronics, and I'm very old school, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what if I don't get this right and that right? And I had a very old computer at the time, and I was forever struggling with Zoom, and it was just such a headache. But then I realized that it was actually me, that wasn't comfortable doing that. But so in-person sessions, amazing, fantastic. The person is right there with you. But for online sessions, and I do have a couple of videos about that as well. It's going to be in the playlist that I put for you down below in the description, the link to check it out. There's other videos on that as well. Online sessions are great because you get to really dress comfortably. I would always recommend that you dress comfortably in any case, but I find that you dress probably more comfortably when you're just in your own home, because you can just wear your sleeping shorts or tracksuit or whatever. Even though, listen, you're more than welcome to come to me wearing those things as well, but you may just be more comfortable on your bed or in your couch and that sort of thing. And so that is perfectly fine. Another thing that I want to speak about is noise and sound quality. The one thing that I would like you to do is have a decent sort of set of earphones and a microphone. And it doesn't have to be one of those overly expensive things that, it could be one of those gamer things, because they're normally quite comfortable. So you want to wear something that's comfortable, something that's not going to hurt your ears or anything like that. Something that picks up sound really, really well, so I can hear you and you can hear me. And I find that any of these sort of earphones that typically come, or like the headsets basically, that typically comes with, sometimes with your laptop or your mobile phone or anything like that, they are usually perfectly fine. A good suggestion would maybe be to, to make a call to a friend or someone like that beforehand. You want to make sure that your internet connection is nice and stable, that it doesn't drop out. But another thing that people are also very concerned about is that what if they get stuck in trance? So you can't really get stuck in trance because you are awake. That's true, but also you really want to make sure that you work with someone that knows what they are doing, because it is still your mind. And even though regression hypnosis is an amazingly safe, beneficial, profoundly, exceptionally amazing practice, when you don't know what you're doing, there can be potential, disadvantages from there. But even in my, when I speak to you before, and then even if you listen to all this and you're clear about it, I'll run through it again before your session, unless you're really insistent I shouldn't. But, I say it to you, and in your induction I reiterate to it once again, I'm the one who's giving you the voice prompts. You are the one who's choosing to follow it. You are the one in control. You can't get stuck in trance. If for any reason whatsoever we lose contact with one another, you will just wake up all on your own. If there's any sense of danger, and this is also something that people sometimes want to know, because you might feel very vulnerable in an in-person session. What if this person is, some sort of, psycho freak that want to do funny things with you and you wouldn't know about it? Won't happen. You won't go anywhere that is uncomfortable for you. And because your sessions are recorded, and you want to have your session recorded, because it's great to look back afterwards to see how far you've come, but also you get to see what happened in your session, or at least have an audio recording. So nothing funny can be done for you. In actual fact, I speak a little bit under correction, but I do believe that in all parts of the world, or at least in the more westernized part of the world, I do believe that it is a requirement for all hypnotherapists to actually keep a record, like a physical media sort of record of their sessions, for whatever, purposes afterwards. But so make sure you have something you can hear well. And a lot of times people are also very worried about noise. There are cars driving past, or maybe, your neighbors are a little bit on the busy side, or, you're going to maybe book yourself, like check yourself into a hotel room or something like that, or a motel or whatever. Or even I've had people who had their sessions in their cars on the side of the road in like the forest or whatever. You obviously always want to make sure that it's safe. But that is fine, because you can even use that noise to actually relax yourself deeper, because it's simply a thing of telling the mind what to do. And then lastly, I want to also speak about people that sometimes say they can't go into trance. Hypnosis is a natural thing. We go into trance a couple of days without typically even realizing it, and when you do familiar things like prepare your drink, or like your coffee, or take a drive, and sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, I don't even know how I did that, your mind tapping out, that is the hypnosis sense that you go to. So as I was beginning to say earlier on, some people are gone like a light. Those cases are very far and few in between. And even then, you typically have a good recollection of what happened during your session. Some people are very present, and most people are somewhere in between. So no matter where you go, it's still perfect for your session. A personal request that I'd like to make, because this is something that has happened before, and whilst I want you to be as comfortable as possible, I would still like you to cover, sort of areas that needs to be covered, I remember the one time, I've had several sessions, but I'm just going to mention the one. I actually had a lady who came for a session, and she was literally wearing this, it was an online session, but a very thin sort of like chiffon-like top, and, as she was laying down, her chest opened, and I could, one breast literally popped out, and I just went through in the session, but, I would prefer not to have those sort of things in a session. I'm not really queasy about it or anything like that, but I would prefer that, that what is covered, or what would normally be covered by your swimsuit, I would prefer for that to be covered. And literally, if you want to be in your underwear, I'm good with that. But, whatever would usually be a requirement for underwear to be covered, I would really appreciate to have that covered. Okay. So those are the tips for you for preparing for your regression hypnosis session. Some guidance, some hints. I hope it really, really helps. Do check out the links down below in the description. If you've got any questions or any feedback, you are more than welcome to put it down in the comments. Anything that might be helpful, anything that might be supportive, I always welcome that, because I'm all about helping others, live their greatest experience of life. And if you would like to book a session with me, my schedule is usually quite busy. So if you would like to book a session with me, even if you are only thinking of, maybe having it 6 months down the line, I would recommend contacting me sooner as opposed to later. Then we can set it up for you. My contact details are down below in the description. From my heart, namaste, love and light.